Hello and welcome back to the Multiply Podcast. We are so glad that you are joining us. I'm joined today by my best friend, Brian.
Hey, everybody.
It's always
good. It's always good time to spend with John.
Yeah. And we're just excited that anytime we get you to do anything besides preach.
Hey, I'm here. Professional talker. That's right. That's what professional talker.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. I'm also joined by Bo Guidry, our director of small groups, and so we're really excited today. As we sit here today,
Bo's a professional of nothing, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, I'm a professional critic of the lead pastor.
That's right. Just be careful. But seriously, as we sit here today, we are right in the middle of our Multiply campaign that God is using to get our new campus in DeRidder going. We're going to call that campus First North.
Yeah.
And it is the first step to carrying out our multi-site vision for First Moss Bluff. And the goal of that vision is to multiply what God is already doing here at First to other areas of Southwest Louisiana. So these are very exciting times in the life of our church. Absolutely. And so recently here on the Multiply Podcast, we've been diving into the details of the Multiply campaign that we are currently in the midst of. And last week we did some, kind of frequently asked questions, and we tried to answer those as best we can. And as you have more questions, we do our best to answer them because we want everyone to be really informed about what's going on throughout the process. And this week, we're going to kind of dive a little bit deeper into the nuts and bolts of the Multiply campaign itself. We're going to try to put some more meat on the bones. We've been doing that over the last few weeks of church, and so we're going to continue to do that. But before we get into that, Bo, you're joining us for the first time on the Multiply podcast. And so over the last couple weeks, I've asked Bubba and Brian and Marshall kind of what they were most excited about what God was doing so far in the process. And so I want to ask you the same thing. What have you seen God do so far that you are most excited about as we go to the First North campus?
I think ultimately the provisions that have just been made, from us looking for a property to rent and do a storefront or a school, and none of those things were working out. Then just from nowhere, a beautiful piece of property with great highway frontage was provided. We had the finances for it. And so that's a real physical provision. He provided already a great campus leader for us and other staff members within our current staff that have a passion to partner up there. I'm also excited about just my personal connection with Beauregard Parish and having served up there and know the people. They're great people.
Yeah.
I'm early in ministry. Someone told me that there's a person that needs Jesus behind every pine tree in Beauregard Parish, and there are a lot of pine trees in Beauregard Parish. And so I'm really excited about the opportunity for a church like ours to go into a city or a parish like that. Not that we know all the answers, but we believe since God has provided up to this point, He'll continue to provide.
Yes.
And that influence will take place, and that people will come to know Jesus, and that it will change the legacies of their homes forever. I know that's like kind of preachy sounding, but ultimately we're not in it for our name.
Yeah.
And so
That's right.
I'm just excited about people that I've been told have been praying for a church like ours in their neighborhood.
Yeah, that's one of the most awesome things. Yeah. And I think, you probably have the most connection up there just because you've been serving in Beauregard throughout the years. But it's really cool to see, like, even the rest of us, the connections that have been formed with people up in Beauregard Parish through Faith Walk and through other organizations that we're a part of. It's just, it's so exciting to kind of see that and be able to talk with them and talk about what our hopes and goals are and what we feel like God's leading us to. And so, as we get this ball rolling, the most important thing for us to keep at the front of our minds and the minds of all of us at First Moss Bluff is that is the mission of what we are doing, right? Mm-hmm. We are on mission. And in this mission, we've kind of identified two main goals to keep us focused on that mission. And so, Brian, can you maybe spend some time telling us what those missions are?
Yeah, so the first one is we want everybody in our church to be engaged in this process. 100% engagement is kind of what we said. And this is all of us because I think we've seen this as an obeying issue of following Jesus thing, and so we want everybody to be involved because it comes down to discipleship really for us. If we want to see people get saved. And then help the people who are saved, help them to grow and understand. So 100% engagement is a big part of that. We don't want anybody on the sidelines. We like to say at first, there's no benches at first. Everybody needs to jump in.
That's right.
Everybody needs to get on the field and play. So that's probably one of the highest things that I'm praying for, is that everybody will find their place to get involved in this. And then in that, as our church comes together in this engagement, we do have a financial goal, which is to raise $5 million. So $3 million of that to go towards getting First North started, all the way from startup costs to building and construction and all that type of thing. And then the other two will be to aggressively attack, and if we meet our goal, to pay off all of our debt that on our current worship center here in Moss Bluff. So with the goal of being here in the next 3 to 5 years, we could be completely debt free. And when we're debt free, that will free up about $450,000 a year instead of servicing debt that we can put into ministry. Now, again, servicing debt, that is work, that is ministry, because we use these buildings to do tons of ministry and we've seen lots of people in these properties be saved and that type of thing. And we expect the same thing in First North. So, but to get that where we can take that $450,000 a year and be able to do that, because as we've said, this is the beginning, not the end. For multi-site. And there's other areas, there's other cities in our Southwest Louisiana who need a church like ours. And that's part of the goal. Is one of the main parts of this vision is that we believe every community deserves a church where God is working and moving, and we want to multiply that out to every community around us and be able to give away what God has given to us.
That's right. And so, at the end of this, we could be looking at another campus doing what we're doing here, reaching people for Jesus, baptizing people.
Absolutely. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. People being involved in community, just all the things that we experience here. And so, as I think about like what our role here can be, that's it. We're looking to do something, across Southwest Louisiana. And so that 100% engagement is probably the most important part of this, right? Is to have us all rowing in the same boat, doing the same thing that we're doing. And so we all have to find our place to plug in. And so we have identified 3 key components that hopefully will inspire generosity in all of us. And so, those 3 components are to pray, to give, and to go. And so, Bo, why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about the prayer component and what resources have been created to help us in that particular component of the process?
I think it's a spiritual principle that we should be praying. We should be connected intimately to the Father. That should be a daily practice throughout the day, not just a moment in time, but throughout time. And so what we know, based just on the way we've lived our lives, I would imagine that there have been times where we haven't kept up with that. We haven't prayed throughout the day and stayed intimately connected to the Father. And so ultimately, the discipleship for pray is let's just get started together, and then giving them resources. And so one of the resources is a 21-day prayer guide that comes along with a reading plan and a weekly devotional. And it's made to be used for the individual, no matter whatever life stage they're in. Yeah. But we've also added a family component too, and so there's an activity where you can sit down with your family. Maybe it's windshield time. We take advantage of windshield time. It's easier to do that than dinner time in our home, and just kind of talk about those things, do this activity, and then pray together. And so it's really simple format. It's if someone is just getting started, it's great for them. If someone's been walking with Jesus and has been continually maturing over the decades, it's a great point for them to be able to have insight. So the 3 levels of those 3 weeks, those 21 days, is that we're going to pray, we're going to go, and we're going to learn about giving and generosity.
And so the prayer guide has a part in all of that. Right. And I think, when I think about us all praying together as a family, I believe that's how God knits our hearts together. When we're all praying for his will and for his guidance and his direction, that's how he's going to bring us even closer together and get us on the same page as we attempt to do this and as we go where he tells us to go. And so that resource has been created. We're in the middle of those 21 days of prayer right now as you're watching this. And so that resource guide is available to you. Even if maybe you haven't started when we started, you're a little bit behind, jump in. You can maybe catch up, or you can just make your 21 days start from today. That resource is on our website. We're also going to link it in the description of the show. And that way you can find it very easily as we're doing that. And so, Brian, why don't you take the other 2, the give and the go? Tell us a little bit about kind of what we're thinking when we're thinking about giving and going.
So on the give aspect, the question we're asking everybody to ask the Lord and to pray about as a family or as an individual is, what does generosity look like for me in this season? And then let the Lord answer that question, and whatever that looks like. And then we just ask you to obey whatever God says. And so in that, we are looking for us to make plans and projections and all that. We have commitments, and we want to see people make commitments of what does generosity look like for me over these next 1, 2, 3 years. And so in the commitment card, you have the opportunity to say, I'm going to commit for a year, 2 years, 3 years. Yeah. Here's what God has put on my heart as far as generosity in my finances. And, let me speak to that real quick. I'll mention this. We've mentioned this several times. Everybody gets uneasy, when a pastor talks about finances. It's like almost everybody's like, oh, goodness, I can't believe I invited my friend to church today, and now this is what we're talking about. And it's important to understand that Jesus talked about money more than anything else. Yeah. You combine his teachings on heaven and hell, he still taught more about money than those two things combined. So because he understood how closely this was attached to the heart, which also brings up the point, one of the reasons people get so, squirmy about it is because it is so emotional. Sure, it's an emotionally driven subject for us. And so I understand all of that. And my heart is to pastor and to shepherd through this moment and through this season. And literally, I'm not looking for people to respond to any requests that I make. I'm looking for people to respond to the requests that the Lord makes of them.
That's awesome.
And that's the main thing that I would like to see people focus on.
Yeah, and depending on when you're watching this, there's going to be a resource, another podcast that us three are doing together on generosity and the kind of the discipleship of generosity and we talk a lot about what you just talked about. Mm-hmm. We dive into the scriptures. And we really think about, what did God say about having a generous spirit and, how did Jesus model that for us? And so we'll link that in the show description as well. And so make sure you check out that podcast because that can help you answer. Because one of the things that we're doing as a family, and I know you guys are too, just kind of sticking on this give part, is we're looking at, all right, where can we cut? Where can we shave? Where can we be generous? And some specific things about what we're doing. And so these are important things for us to think about. But the other part of this, going past the give is some of us have to go.
Absolutely. So our one of our main goals in this, and we talked about it on the past podcasts, how is this going to feel like First Moss Bluff? Mm-hmm. And part of that is, number one is campus pastor Bubba. He's someone who's, and his wife Brandy, they've been through our church. They've seen life change in our church and they've experienced that. And so they've got the DNA in them. Right. And we need probably 75 to 100 folks to join Bubba and Brandy to say, we love First, the DNA, we're all in on this, and we want to take what God has done at First Moss Bluff and replicate it up in First North. And so that's going to be an ask of, hey, again, not only ask what does generosity look like, but again, what does maybe sacrifice look like? Because that's going to be a sacrifice for some. Yeah. Some who God will put on their hearts to go. They've been a part of our church for a long, long time since like 70s and the 80s. But that's the beautiful thing is God is taking what he's created at our church and he's sending people out to replicate what he is doing. And so that's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to need. And so some of you will be asked by the Lord, not by me, but by the Lord. Again, that same question is, what is the Lord telling you in this season? And please just do whatever the Lord is saying. That's all our ask is. And some of them, it's going to be to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to add to that. Some of these people that are going to First North, this is the only place they've known. This is where they've met Jesus, where they've gotten married, where they've taken their first step, next step. Their kids have come to faith in Jesus, and they're thriving in community. Yeah. And it is a tremendous putting aside of themselves to go and invest in another community. And again, that's another provision that God's made for our church. And
but it goes along with the one church, multiple campuses mindset. Absolutely. And as I think about this, I'm reminded of our vision as a church, right? And that is that we are making followers of Jesus by creating a church that is irresistible to those who are far from Jesus, indispensable to those who are following Jesus, and impactful with the love of Jesus to the world around us. Yep. And so that's what we're trying to do. And we believe that every community deserves a church like this. And this is our moment to multiply what God is doing here at First. And so before we wrap up, guys, do y'all have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with people about the Multiply and what we're doing through that?
I think the one thing I would say is to build off what you said a moment ago. This is our moment.
Yeah.
The only reason we're able to multiply what God is doing here is because people before us prayed and asked God to do a supernatural work in our church. We're standing on the shoulders of generations who have come, 70 something years and seen this church grow and go through its seasons that it's gone through. And now this is our moment in this generation for us to stand with them, stand with the Lord, and see what is God asking of us. What's the step of faith in this moment, just like they did, so that we can reap the benefits today.
It's awesome. I love it. One of the things that I know that we have said quite a bit throughout the years is we don't ever want to be a church that turns inward.
That's right.
We're always looking to break out the walls. And we usually would do that for periods of time, right? Like, for an event or for a mission trip or something. Now we're doing it.
Yeah.
Like this is truly breaking outside these walls. Like we're going, baby. And so.
And all that other stuff is going to continue.
Yeah. Well, none of that ends. We actually are going to bring it with us up there.
Absolutely.
And we're going to do some of the same stuff up there. And so we hope that this has been a help for you if you've been thinking about how you can plug in to what's going on here at First. And so if you have a interest in getting plugged in any way, make sure you come by the Next Step room on Sundays. You can ask any questions. You can sign up to be a part and get involved. You can also visit our Multiply website for tons of information and resources. Some of the things that we've mentioned here today are on that website, and we're going to link that in the show description to make it really easy for you to get there. And we're going to have more podcasts, other content coming your way. So make sure you follow First Moss Bluff. You subscribe to our pages. Anywhere that you find your content, make sure you do that, and leave a like and a comment so that we can connect. We love to hear from you guys.
Absolutely.
We love to connect with you in any way. And so we want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you guys for being here. It was an awesome day. And so we'll see you soon. Bye.